Earlier, between 19 and let's say 22, 23, in every meeting they used to try to persuade me and the government to reconsider joining RCEP. I think of late they have recognized that India is not going to join the RCEP because neither did it reflect the guiding principles on which RCEP was started, nor is it in the nation's interest to do a free trade agreement with China. And when I got into the Commerce and Industry Ministry in June of 2019, we were at the fag end of negotiations of the RCEP. Yeah. November 4th was the day we were to all accept joining the RCEP. Yeah. So I got only about 3 or 4 months to really get a hang on what was happening. But very clearly I could see that it was not in the nation's interest. It was not in our farmers' interest. RCEP did not reflect the aspirations of our small and micro, medium industries, MSME sector. Yeah. And in some form was nothing but a free trade agreement with China. Because at that point of time, we already had an FTA with the ASEAN bloc of 10 countries. We already had an FTA with Japan and Korea. The Australia FTA was on the verge of finalization. Instead of finalizing that, we put that into the back burner and focused on RCEP. Sure. And New Zealand, we don't have much business interest. At that point of time, the total bilateral trade was about $300 million. So effectively, the only country left was China. And certainly nobody back home would like to have an FTA with a non-transparent economy, very opaque in its economic practices, where both trading systems, political systems, the economy, the way it is managed is completely different from what the democratic world wants.
Minister, you don't think if you pushed for a hard bargain that you could get your terms and conditions in RCEP? This is what actually a noted economist in the region, Kishore Mahabubani, has highlighted, that actually RCEP can be beneficial for India with a hard bargain.
Well, I think very often when you see from the lens sitting outside the country, you don't realize how difficult it is to compete against a non-transparent economy which uses the World Trade Organization most favored nation MFN policy to its advantage and floods different economies or countries with goods at abysmally low prices, very often not even meeting up to quality standards.
Sure.
And the impact that non-transparent economies can have on, let's say, India's growth story, especially with predatory pricing possible. We've seen that happening in many products. In fact, when we were negotiating RCEP, we had a series of meetings. In one of the meetings with my Chinese counterpart, we were both having coffee. And I actually picked up the cup and I told him, you know, the cup that we see on the shelves in India is often made from China. And the price at which you manufacture, you ship, and you retail in India is less than the cost of raw materials in our country. How can you manage that? And very smugly he said that this is our efficiency. I said, fine, is it okay then that we agree that anytime we want information about how you are able to efficiently do that, or whether the payment for that is fully made from India, and we want details of the transaction, will you be willing to share with us? He said, that's not possible. That's our internal matter.
So you want more transparency in trade?
So obviously that day I could sense very clearly that everything is not kosher.